Alright, hi guys, this is your video guide for lesson 5. And our title for today is What Was Found at the Viking Town of Jorvik. What was found at the Viking town of Jorvik. It looks like Jorvik, but we pronounce the J like a Y, so we're going to call it Jorvik. What was found at the Viking town of Jorvik. In this lesson, you are going to be an archaeologist and a detective, wrapped up into one. All the best historians, Year 7, are really good detectives. You are going to go digging into the deep past for Viking treasure. So let's get our shovels and magnifying glasses at the ready, and we're going to do some detective work and some archaeology. Let's go. Right. Look at this image here. Look at this image here. Here on the left-hand side, we can see a map of Britain, and we can see this area. We can see this area called the Danelaw. Now, in 878 AD, the Vikings fought a battle with a king of England down here, and his name was Alfred. And Alfred won that battle. He beat the Vikings. And at the end of that battle, the Viking leader, whose name was Guthrum, agreed to convert to Christianity. In return, Alfred said, "You can stay in England, but you must stay in this area in the north of England." And this area, which becomes like the Viking colony, is known as the Danelaw. The Danelaw. Okay? Remember that word, the Danelaw. Can you see this red mark here? That's the location of the town Jorvik. Jorvik was the capital, the Viking capital of the Danelaw. It was their biggest city, their most important city. And in this image here, you can see a visual and artistic interpretation of what Jorvik might have looked like. And one of your tasks on your worksheet today is to study this image and try and describe what Jorvik was like. Once you've done that, you can try the next task, which is to, same as last lesson, read this paragraph. It's got lots of spelling, punctuation, and grammar mistakes in it. Can you rewrite it, please, without the spelling, punctuation, and grammar mistakes? Right. Now, you will then come to this image again. Now, hopefully you discovered that in Jorvik, it was a big settlement. There was lots of craft, making of things, trade, house building. It looks like a thriving community in this image. Even a port. All right, there was a river running through it. The Vikings were able to take their ships, because they were very shallow, they could even take their ships up the rivers inland. All right. Now, on the link of your worksheet, on your worksheet, there's a YouTube link where you're going to watch a video. All right. And that video is going to tell you more about the excavation of York in the 1970s. There's an area of York called Coppergate. And this video will tell you all about the archaeological dig that happened in the 1970s. Archaeologists dug up this area because they wanted to find out more about the old Viking settlement. Watch that video and note down all the things that they discovered, please. And then once you've written down everything that they discovered, there's a couple of examples for you here. After you've watched the video, you can start the main activity for this lesson. What does this evidence discovered in that archaeological dig, what does all of that evidence tell us about the Vikings? What does that evidence tell us about the Vikings? Because as historians, especially when we are studying the distant past, the Viking period was a long time ago. As historians, we are always making inferences. Now, inferences are a bit like guesses, but they're very educated guesses. As historians, we have to look for evidence. We then have to study the evidence very carefully, like detectives, and then we need to try and work out what this evidence tells us. You know, there's no absolute right answer in history. It's not like maths or science where, 2 + 2 = 4. In history, we've got to try and work things out as best we can, especially when we're studying the really distant past. So here's some language you can use when making inferences. This is the kind of language you should use when you're kind of trying to work out what something tells you. Try and use this language for the task. And I've done one of them for you. One of the things that was found during the archaeological dig, as you will find out in the video if you haven't watched it yet, is 5 tons of animal bones. Now, what does that tell us? Okay, so we found 5 tons of animal bones here. Well, what does that tell us? Well, maybe it tells us that they were farmers, that they ate meat or drank milk. What have I written here? Such a large discovery of animal bones reveals to us that, remember that language, that the Vikings had settled on the land and were raising livestock. Livestock means like cows, sheep, pigs. The fact that these animal bones were discovered would suggest that they were living there, so that they'd settled on the land. Also, there's 5 tons. That's quite a lot. So such a large quantity of animal remains could also suggest that some of this livestock was being traded. Look at my use of the word could here. All right? I'm using that kind of language because I'm not 100% sure. I'm just kind of making I'm making inferences. So use this kind of language. What you need to do on the worksheet is you need to think of some of the other things that were found, and you would have heard those in the video. Write the evidence in here, and then can you write a mini paragraph? What does that tell us about the Vikings? Okay. How many can you do? How many of those can you do? And then final activity for today's lesson is, again, let's come back to our big question, our inquiry question. Did the Vikings only bring rapine and slaughter? What does what you've learnt today suggest about the answer to this question? Write your ideas down on the final task on the worksheet. All right, that's the end of the video guide for lesson 5. All right, good luck with the lesson today. Okay, you'll find the worksheet on Teams for you to edit, and your teacher's there to help you. Thanks, guys.